Debunking and breaking down the Instagram rant about the Errol Spence negotiation. Facts. Alright, so a lot to be said here. So I watched the Terence Crawford Instagram rant / info video about what happened with the Errol Spence negotiation and why the undisputed fight isn't happening in 2022 and may not happen for a few more months or maybe years or not at all. So Terence Crawford started out the rant by addressing how he and Al Haymon kind of started the negotiation off, talking with each other, having good conversations, and somewhere along the line the conversations started to turn bad.
I started talking to Team Spence, I would say, and Al Haymon and them about May, right after his fight.
But there was one thing that he started out with that I wanted to touch on, and that was that he began speaking with Al Haymon and representatives of Team Spence back in May.
Just going back and forth, they sending me a proposal with the interest of Spence and Crawford fight. We didn't get a contract until August, kind of like a regular contract.
He didn't receive an outline of a contract. It wasn't an actual contract. It was just like terms and an outline of a contract, giving him the basics of what they would be putting in the contract.
It wasn't nothing. It was initial proposal. It wasn't even a contract. It was a proposal. Spence, Crawford, the intentions of us fighting.
It had been 4 months since he started talking to Al. If you remember a few weeks ago, he said his whole issue, and other channels were saying that the whole issue regarding the fight, and fans were saying the issue is that he would not receive a guarantee. Now you would think in that first 4 months that you're discussing the fight, the number one topic is going to be the money. And you're telling me at no point during that whole 4 months did Terence Crawford once address Al Haymon about how they were going to be paying him, whether it would be back-end money or whether it would be money he would receive up front. So there's definitely a conflict there between what Crawford is saying and what actually happened. And I just wanted to start off with that.
Al goes in to saying a guy that I don't know representing me in a contract which I have no nothing upon that I agreed to. So basically, I'm talking to Al and I'm like, Al, come on, man, I don't even know this guy. The guy stated he's a part of your team.
There was someone leaking information. Now Terence Crawford touched on this. He said there was a guy that Al Haymon had been talking to. Now, I'm not going to say no names, but I think we all know who I'm referring to. But there was someone who was putting information out the whole time about the negotiation process because there were fight dates that kept getting leaked and claiming that they were official fight dates that never came to fruition. So he definitely addressed the fact that there was someone misrepresenting him, putting out false information, basically.
I was a good dude, man. I was a, charming guy, he's a cool dude, I kind of like talking to him, but at the same time, Spence is our guy, I'm not. So of course he's gonna do what's best for, his fighter, his guy. That's like, any other manager / advisor would do. He would do the best for his fighter.
Let's touch on another subject. So a few weeks ago, there were people reporting that Terence Crawford was taking a slave deal. As a matter of fact, people were saying that this came directly from Terence Crawford, and he felt like PBC and Al Haymon were giving him a slave's deal. A lot of this has to do with the fact that he has a lot of resentment toward Bob Arum and Top Rank for some reason, even though he got a lot of money from Arum and Top Rank. That's something I totally agree with that he said in this rant. He said that he was getting a lot of front money. He was getting a lot of guaranteed money from Bob Arum, and I had been saying that for a long time, that he had a special contract with Arum, and that Arum was basically treating him a whole lot better than any of his other fighters and paying him to boot. And I don't understand why he turned on Arum that way, because once he did get out of Top Rank, now he's seeing that other boxing promotional companies don't do business the way Al Haymon was doing business with him. He's almost like he's salty at those companies for not treating him the same way that Bob Arum treated him. He was saying that Al Haymon was giving him a slave deal, like Al Haymon's a bad guy. But even in the Instagram rant, he had to admit that Al Haymon is a good guy, nice guy, friendly talker, all these things. How can you say in one breath that someone's a good guy, a good person, but yet they're trying to rob you in the next breath? I just don't get it.
I get advice from other guys in PBC. They tell me, be careful, make sure the deal is right. Terence
Crawford said he got some advice from other guys from PBC telling him, watch the deal, don't get effed over. Like Al Haymon is known for effing over fighters, the way Bob Arum is known for effing over fighters. So I find that quite strange that there are PBC fighters. I'm about 100% sure he's referring to Adrian Broner at this point, At first I was thinking Sean Porter, but with the BLK Prime thing and then Adrian Broner being disgruntled and leaving PBC, you would have to assume that it's Adrian Broner who told him don't get effed over. Now, we all know Adrian Broner has a laundry list of problems. Why would you be believing things that Adrian Broner said over all the other fighters that are still with PBC and that from PBC boxing? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's move on.
Just normal things from guys that's in they stable that I'm friends with. I honestly can say I'm friends with. We going on and on, and of course me and Al, we going back and forth about, the numbers. We're not going back and forth about anything else. We just going back and forth about the numbers.
Okay, so there's a conflict in there somewhere. Terence Crawford says things, but the way he formulates his stories, he puts pieces in the wrong place. Okay, so he started out by saying they talked from May till August. Then he got a proposal in August. Not a contract, but a contract proposal. And then maybe about 5 minutes later, he started saying that him and Al were going back and forth, but they were going back and forth about the numbers. Okay, so if they're going back and forth, let's say from August on, and it took you all the way up until almost, I believe it was like mid-September or end of September when he came out and said that they were offering him the slave deal and that there was no guaranteed money in the contract. So you're telling me that from May until the mid-September, it took 6 months for you to actually be clear with Al Haymon about how much you want to get paid, and you wonder why they were playing hardball in negotiation with you? They had a set amount that they were trying to offer you the whole time, and it seems like you were trying to haggle a deal instead of just accepting it for what it was for 6 long months.
All in all, I have 2 companies, that reach out to me that, wanted to give me and Spence $25 million guaranteed.
Terence Crawford goes into saying that I was contacted by 2 companies offering him $25 million a piece. And, that could be very true, but my one question about that is, if those 2 companies contacted you offering $25 million a piece, why didn't they contact Al Haymon as well, letting him know that this money was on the table and offering him some type of contract and deal to put his fighter Errol Spence in with Terence Bud Crawford, and they basically do a purse bid? A lot of what Crawford says sounds good, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
So, a real guy like myself, I called Spence. Hey, bro, look, listen. You know what I mean? I got this company that's willing to give us $25 million a piece, guaranteed. What's up? What you gonna do? He like, 25 million. What about the back end?
And then he goes on to say that Errol Spence said that 25 million guaranteed, and kind of said it with some sarcasm. What about the back end? So what that says to me, obviously, is Errol Spence is making a lot more money on the back end than what's publicly known. I had said months ago that there has to be companies out there offering them upwards of $20 million a piece to make that fight because of the numbers that were being thrown at Manny Pacquiao, and he had just lost to Udanius Ugai. So for a fight of this magnitude, there had to be someone willing to put that money up. But perhaps it just wasn't the way Al Haymon and PBC do business at this point. So they were trying to encourage him to do it a different way, but you're still going to receive the same end goal that you would from getting a upfront guarantee, whether it's 20 million or zero. At the end of the day, obviously Errol Spence is making upwards of $20 million per fight to kind of shrug his shoulders at a $25 million guarantee.
I'm like, man, ain't nobody really buying, you know what I mean, pay-per-views no more. I said, man, we get this upfront money and we good. It's a no-brainer.
Okay, now he put a lot of emphasis on getting that upfront money and trying to get Errol Spence to break the terms of his contract by taking some type of $25 million guarantee, which is something he can't do because he signed with PBC. Terence Crawford already knows that. Anything that Errol Spence does until his contract is up has to go through Al Haymon and PBC, so why would you even bring that up to Errol Spence and not Al Haymon? What that sounds like to me is Terence Crawford wants a big guarantee because he believes he's going to lose. And if he loses, he wants some retirement money and some just in case nobody rocks with me after I lose money. Otherwise, why would you be encouraging Errol Spence to go against the terms of his own contract in order to take some guaranteed money from a company he has no idea how they even do business? It doesn't make sense.
I'm really my own boss now, and he's not. He got to go through Al. He got to go through, you know what I mean, his team and ask them if he can do certain things that I don't have to no more.
Once again, he said something completely contradictory. Why would you go to Errol Spence knowing Errol Spence is not the one making up the language like he just said? He's not the one at the negotiating table. Yet you go to Errol Spence, but you've been talking to Al Haymon since May. When a company comes to you with a $25 million proposal that tells you they already know Al, number one, why wouldn't you just go to Al and propose it to Al? You go to Errol Spence knowing that he can't do anything about it. It's kind of like he's trying to embarrass Spence, which I've said before. Not only that, if that hedge fund company already knows Al Haymon, why wouldn't they just approach him directly? Why are they going to Terence Crawford to go to Errol Spence to go to Al Haymon? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Terence Crawford, definitely, I understand why he doesn't talk a lot now.
He had to go back and ask Al for permission, you know, if he can, you know, take this big chunk of lump sum of money to fight Terence Crawford. So I proposed it to Al. I hit up Al. I'm like, Al, listen, you know, man, I got this big hedge fund company out here, you know, they claim they know you. Not one, but two. Not one, but two. You know what I mean? Two companies willing to put 20 plus million in both of our pocket, guaranteed. Al told me straight up, I'm not letting nobody touch this fight. I'm like, all right, cool. But I'm like, why? He like, why would you want to put a ceiling on yourself? Why you want to put a cap on yourself?
All right, and he says when he approached finally Al Haymon about the hedge fund companies, Al Haymon said, why would you want to put a cap on this fight? And he said he wasn't going to let anyone else touch that fight. Now, there's two things you have to go back and revisit is that obviously Errol Spence Jr. is making more money off the back end money than we all think he is, or that the public believes that he is. And there's something else. Al Heyman said that he's not letting anyone else touch this fight. What does that mean? To me, that means that contractually he's tied in with Fox and Showtime, and they want the replay money off of that fight. They're not going to share the ability to replay that fight with another company. That's how they're going to make their money. That's what I interpret Al Heyman meaning by saying nobody else is touching this fight, because I've touched on this before. The problem with making that fight when it was top ranked Terence Crawford is that there would have been 3 television companies fighting over rights for the replays of the fight, and it would have just caused a whole nother mess. Now, I do agree with the fact that Terence Crawford said that pay-per-view sales are way down and that people are stealing the fights and fighters are not benefiting from that. I can't agree with that, but it doesn't excuse the fact that he's expecting such a high guarantee without PBC having a guarantee of recouping what they paid him as a guarantee. Even Terence Crawford has to admit he's not selling pay-per-views. Nobody is. So if you have no record of generating that type of money, why would you expect them to pay you that type of money up front? What they're basically telling you is what you generate is what you're gonna earn. Basically, if the fight does well, you'll earn a high percentage. If the fight fails, it's because both of you guys just don't sell and y'all have to split what is earned off the fight. So basically, that's fair in a way. Now, if you have another company willing to put all that money up and take all that risk, that's a different story. But you can't expect PBC to take 100% of the risk. There would be no risk on Terence Crawford's part. Fox, Showtime, PBC are the ones who are going to be financing everything when it comes to the fight. Paying both fighters, securing a venue, paying for all the things that go along with a venue. So if they're taking 100% of the risk and the fight be a success and Terence Crawford gets 100% of the reward when he's putting up none of the risk, it's almost going back to the exact same thing that Terence Crawford is doing when it comes to the negotiation process. It's like he's trying to get a higher reward even though Errol Spence did all of the work. He got 3 titles, you got 1, but you're wanting a higher benefit off of basically doing nothing. It's crazy because Terence Crawford, when he talks truth, but it's truth to point the finger right back at himself. You know, the promotional part of it. That costs a lot of money. So I feel like for them to accomplish the goal of putting this fight together and Terence Crawford taking no risk on the back end when it comes to making the fight, he doesn't deserve any guarantee. You should eat off of what the fight generates. And I think that's where the problem is coming in. Terence Crawford sounds more like he wants a guarantee in case he loses. And the excuses that he's making up for why he didn't take the fight, at the end of the day, they're making him seem and sound a lot more guilty. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. But you're more likely to get a response on the tube. So holler at me over there. It's your boy. And we are not a hand.
It's your boy Keys, neighborhood employee. Niggas knew that I was coming with fire. Y'all went up to my pie and up under a car. Your head under a tie, it's the S and the I. Player, we supposed to win. I'm in the booth focusing with coke in hand. Dude hate it when you see the chief running in. Ass mouth hurting like his wisdom teeth coming in. Now that's a roundhouse kick. Come round your house, letting rounds out quick. From Newburgh to downtown, it's that Midwest to down south shit. Y'all ain't fucking with.
She chillin', sitting tryna put the veal on the mind. What's good? She nothing, sitting tryna show these niggas how to ride. What's